Hi, welcome back. My name's Newman, and this is my life with plants. I had a question from Eric about when do I know when to water my cacti. So I thought it was a good question, and it can often be hard to answer, but I'm going to put it quite as simple as I can. And the best way I can answer that is climate. So climate is everything. Now we all know that cacti come from a semi-desert to low rainfall areas, which can be quite tropical, quite humid, but generally the rainfall is far and few between, which makes them able to survive in pockets and niches and areas, even within tropical areas that have quite high humidity. It could be 70% humidity. And so the climate has everything to do with it. So we all have humid seasons, we all have drier seasons, we have rainy. And what the best way I can answer this is when your cacti come into active growth, that means that when they start producing buds, and you can see that there is new growth coming from the apex, maybe babies are starting to develop little offsets, and generally at that time of the year, that is your perfect opportunity to water. So always coming out of dormancy in the winter, you want to water your cacti a little, and preferably you should do some background research on where your cacti come from, because I think in the UK, or from a video that Lynn did from Desert Plants of Avalon, and people who live in the UK, they do have a lot of trouble with certain varieties like Mammillaria elongata. And when you do have issues like that, you just need to do some weather research. So we all have great technology these days, as you know, and we're able to search online about the weather forecast. So the weather forecast for that Mammillaria elongata is, it has a lot of fog that rolls in during the night, and that even continues during the winter time. And if you check the humidity, it goes right up to 90%, which means that they do get some water during even the winter time. And if you know that much, then you know to give it some water and to let it dry out again, which means you might have to use fans if you're keeping them indoors during the winter. So other than that, a lot of other species, you're just looking for the buds and the active growth, and that tells you that they need water and they're going to take it. So maybe the first watering would be light. You may only be looking at a spritz, which means that you go over with your watering can lightly. And once you see that the cacti are plumping up much more than they were during the winter, you might wait another week if you have nice sunny weather and your growing medium is drying out pretty quick. Within the next 2 or 3 days, that medium is like dried right up. You want to wait the whole week. If it's still moist after 1 week, don't water it again. That tells you that it's not taking up the water, or the environment is not evaporating it quick enough. So therefore there is still moisture left in there and the cacti can use it. So don't do it. You're looking for it to dry out within a week. This is springtime. So the temperatures, let's pretend it's springtime again. Now the temperatures are riding up about 20 degrees or 22 degrees. So it's warming up right now. So your first watering, you want to do a nice decent water until the water runs out the bottom, and then you want to leave it for the next 1 to 2 weeks. 1 week would be anything that has a pot. It's roughly this size. Sorry, let me get a better example. Here's a cacti that's quite large in a this size pot. After 1 week, 20 to 22 degrees temperatures, and you just gave it its first decent watering, it'll be relatively dry by then. So then your next watering will happen about a week later. On the other hand, we have to go up here. Let me get this size comparison. Here's my hand on this pot, so you get an idea of how large this is. This is like 15 centimeters tall, and the width of the top there is about 15 to 20 centimeters. And it is terracotta. Now this size pot, after a nice big watering, it's 2 weeks, because there will be still moisture in there. Now, after they've all flowered and they're finished, they will resume growing. You should resume watering until the point that your night temperatures cannot cool off. They may get to about 25 degrees at night outside, and you're not able to cool it off. So over here, once our nighttime temperatures are stuck on 25 degrees, around that, and our day temperatures are 35 degrees. Now that 35 degrees during the day is perfectly fine. The problem is the night temperature. When it's 25 degrees or hotter, as you know, that cacti have that special adaptation called CAM. It is crassulacean acidic metabolism. And also orchids share this too, and bromeliads. You know that orchids grow on trees. They're also lithophytic. They grow on rocks. They also grow in semi-desert alongside cacti too, even on the ground. They're very opportunistic. And because of this reason, they're able to survive. And it's not because they're reservoirs of water and they're able to store it. That's part of the reason why they're able to survive. Because if that was the case, then a lot of orchids wouldn't be able to either. And it's because of their ability to shut their stomata. So, nighttime temperatures are riding up about 25 degrees at night. They are not going to open their stomata. They're going to keep it closed. And that is the onset of their midsummer dormancy. And they can also, so because they close their stomata, they're not able to release the gases, which is oxygen, and to take in carbon dioxide. Therefore, they're going to slow right down. And at that time, you should be very careful with watering, and you should just spritz as if you are doing it in winter or something. Be very careful with the watering. If your cacti is experiencing temperatures over 25 degrees at night. Okay, so over here that would be August. We get those extreme temperatures. Now the 35 degrees during the day is no problem. They can take up to 38 degrees, but as long as it cools down under 25 degrees at night, they are going to stop breathing properly. Now, you may ask this one question. So, okay, so you look online and at photo images, and you may see a cacti that's growing on limestone on a cliff, and all the way around it you see nothing but jungle. And it may rain on and off during the summer. It could rain every 2 to 3 days on and off. And you're kind of wondering, well, why, in that case, these plants are getting more water than they would in a semi-desert. And it goes back to that case again. It's their ability to shut their stomata. Now, other vegetative plants live down in the gullies and all the way around it, and you just got this bare piece of cliff with all these cacti growing out of it. And that goes back to their ability to do cam. So other plants are not able to do that, and I'm pretty sure that when the seed germinates from that limestone cliff, right, I'm pretty sure a lot of the seeds will fall down into the jungle there, and they germinate even quicker and much better than they would on the limestone cliff. But the problem is that because of their other adaptations, like having a round small body and not growing tall, they get smothered by the jungle. So therefore they would germinate much better, much faster, but the competition is too fierce. So up on the limestone, they're able to not only germinate, but other shrubs and faster growing annual plants, they need of course a lot more water, and they also need one other thing, and that's cam, that ability to shut their stomata, and the cacti have it all. And so when the going gets tough in those jungles there, they have their dry season, and it can go on for months. It could be 3 to 4 months with little to almost no water, and the cacti are able to close up their stomata. Their adaptation. All the other plants solely rely on water reserves that are deep down in the soil and close to rivers. Otherwise, they have to do other things like drop all their leaves to reserve water, or they have very deep tap roots. So that answers that question, because you may see on another YouTuber, and I think his name's Miguel, and Carmen Chaka is a YouTuber's Carmen Chaka, and you will see that he's looking at cacti there that are on these limestone cliffs with all this jungle all the way around them, all down in the gullies and up higher. So that's about the best I can answer that for you. So they get a little other adaptations too, like their ability to get a taproot or stuff like that. So going back to watering, I've explained everything about the watering now, so I hope that helps you a lot. And when you do get a cactus that rots, or the root system that's rotting away, it's because you've watered it at the wrong time, and you didn't let the soil dry out enough before you water it again. Now why is that? And that's because of their CAM, their CAM, that crassulacean acidic metabolism. If they have cool enough nights and hot enough days, like with 20 to 22 degrees is fine during the day, and it gets cooler during the night, they're able to do metabolism properly and breathe. It means that they're able to take the water up. And the other, so if you have adverse weather, which is what I've been talking about, where it doesn't get any cooler than 25 degrees, and in the winter time you have the other extreme where it's much colder, and a lot of us will have frost or below zero temperatures. The cacti also tends to slow down its metabolism too. It'll still breathe, but it won't put on growth, and neither will 99% of other vegetation and plants and everything, right? They slow down their metabolism too because of the cold weather. So I've had Ostrophytums rotting during our summers. Now we get monsoons over here, so it gets really tropical. That tropical humidity is no problem for my cacti as long as the temperature doesn't exceed 25 degrees at night. It can be as tropical and sticky hot as it likes, and my plants will grow fine. In actual fact, a lot of mammillarias that come from Oaxaca down in the south of Mexico experience a lot of high humidity. As I've asked these questions to another YouTuber, Cactus Quest, his name's Hunter, and I asked him, I gotta ask you this one question. It looks pretty humid there. Well, he was adventuring through Oaxaca and he was seeing all these mammillarias growing on limestone. He says, yes, it is. It's like 80%. So it's really smuggy, hot, humid. So there you are. I hope that helps to answer a lot of questions for you. And going back to my Ostrophytums, what did they rot? I watered them because it was temperatures well over 30 degrees. Getting close to 35, and the nighttime temperatures were hotter than 25 degrees. And because of that reason, they got watered and they had shut down their stomata, so they weren't doing breathing, so that they weren't taking the water up, they weren't growing and doing everything that they should, and it rotted the root system. I tend to ease on the side of underwatering. It's absolutely fine as long as it's a larger pot, like I showed you with that Nodocactus, with a very large terracotta pot. You can get away with it. If the pots are very small, like I showed you here, if I watered this and I let it go for 2 to 3 weeks, it would be fine. It would just shrivel, but it would still be fine. But after that, I should water it. And yes, once all the conditions are great and good, cacti have the ability to push roots into the soil, trying to look for water, and that's what you want them to do. So if you have it wet and it doesn't dry out, right, after 1 week it's still wet, it should dry out within the next week, almost down to, I don't know, 20%, because if it's not drying out, that causes the rot in the cactus because it has taken on too much water. So there goes our very last thing that I should talk about, is how plump your cactus is. Let me show you an example. Probably the best example would be this Echinopsis here. It's been about a couple of weeks since I watered last, and I did water last night. But you can see how plump they are. That means that those ribs are showing it. They're almost plumped. It's plumped right up. Yeah. See this tricho? It's plumped right up. If I was to just make it another 2 weeks after this before I water, that would be the best thing to do for this size pot. And I'll tell you why. Because it's plumped up, it can't take any more water. It's going to use whatever moisture it has left in the soil plus in its tissue to build more mass and to grow. But to keep excessively watering it to promote growth isn't going to work. It's just going to abort its root system. And to start rotting because it doesn't need it anymore. They push roots out in the need to gather more moisture, and that's a healthier growing plant, if you can understand what I mean. So here you can see that they're quite moist, right? These trichoceras here, and within the next 2 weeks, it'll be fine. It's taken up as much moisture as it can possibly do, and it's going to grow fine. And I want it to dry out because then it's more natural for it, because it naturally, cacti like to push more roots out, even more than last time, to find more water to meet their needs. But if they got too much water and you keep watering them too often, you don't let them have that drying period, then they're going to take up what they need, and they're going to get rid of their feeder roots pretty quickly, because they do that as part of their survival, their ability to survive. They'll just do that because they're in that environment where they only get water when they can, and then it gets dry all the time. So just remember that one thing. You're doing them a favor by letting them dry out thoroughly before you water them again. If this was springtime and I gave them a spritz, and then the next 1 to 2 weeks I gave them a good water, and if I left them after that for 3 months without water, they would go dormant again. They would shrivel, go dormant, they would lose all their feeder roots, and you would basically have to start off with a spritz again to get the little feeder roots to get going. So that answers the other question about what happens if you underwater them. But they won't die. And I think the best way to kill your cactus is during its optimal growing season, when it has those buds and it's pushing out flowers, and you just don't water it at all, and maybe 4 to 5 months down the track they could die then. Yep. Alright. I hope that helps you out answering the question on how do I know when to water my cacti. Yes, and there's flowers still open on the cacti there. It's pretty humid today, a little bit cooler, and yeah, we'll see you next time. And a shout out to Eric, thanks for the question, so that I was able to talk about it more. And not only am I helping you guys, I'm helping myself learn more by talking about the subject, and it also makes me aware more of what I'm doing with watering, because even I will forget what I'm doing sometimes, and questions like that just help to refresh my mind and make sure that I don't make mistakes either. and I have made a lot. So until next time, don't forget, looking after your plants is not a chore. It's part of your self-care. Makes you happy. And to give a little time, patience, and care for any living creature, even if it's not a cactus and a plant, it's an animal. You're helping to look after yourself. It's good medicine for your soul and for your body. And until next time, we'll see you. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching. Okay, in summary, I got to do this part because I have to summarize what I talked about in case I forgot to mention something. So cacti have the adaptation to close their stomata in the day. That reduces water loss up to 50% or more, where other plants have their stomata open during the day. And so if they encounter the typical dry season where cacti usually come from, even if they're in a dry jungle and it does have quite a lot of rain or fog that rolls in during the night, they're still going to be able to survive really well because of their ability to close their stomata and reduce water loss. Orchids, tillandsias, and succulents have this ability, CAM, that I explained before, their mechanism. So that's why they can grow in places where there can be dry seasons. And an example is Cattleya nobilior. This is not a cactus, but this is an example of what CAM can do. That mechanism where they're able to shut their stomata and only open them at night. And this particular Cattleya grows in extreme dry conditions in Brazil. It's quite amazing, and you will catch that on Stephen Van Campen Lewis, his name, and I'll put it on the screen here so that you can watch that episode because it's very interesting. It'll help you a lot with your cacti too. And I also would like you to catch Lynn on Desert Plants of Avalon because she's a kind, outgoing person that's wanting to help you with any questions you have, and she's really dedicated to cacti and succulents and other shrubs, including epiphyllums, so you will get a lot of helpful tips there and knowledge from her. And East Coast Carmen Chaka, he has the fabulous episodes where he goes out into habitat. His camera work and his footage is just spectacular. It's just like watching a documentary. They're very short, to the point, and very educational. So if you watch that, you are going to consume oodles of information just by watching the scenery, listening to what he's saying, seeing the plants and habitat, even all the camera work, and his explanation on the soil, also the weather. So the one is about Hintonai, Aztecium hintonai, that's the one. So that'll help you a lot about cacti, where they grow and how they grow, and their adaptations. Also, Hunter on Cactus Quest, he has a great episode in Oaxaca, which lets you know about the humidity that cacti can live in. In case humidity is a problem, you should watch that and get educated about where cacti really grow. And it's quite humid, more humid than you think. I think that's about it. If I have forgotten to mention anybody, I will put them up on the screen here so that you can watch their programs. Pretty sure that's it. And that's it for now. I've really scratched my brain. I've
tried my best to answer these questions. And once again, thanks to Eric. That question was really good, and it helps us to learn more about growing our plants, which is what we want to do. We want to grow them the best that we can, and we get worried. And I get worried all the time. And it just helps it really does help a lot to know when you water your cacti and how to water them. Anyway, that's all. I think I've talked enough, and I hope you enjoy these other programs that are all connected to this question about when to water your cacti. And of course one is about orchids, but that'll help you so much with cacti anyway. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Bye bye.